Everyone has their cliche thing, their brand they want to build. Hopefully they have their framework. Can you give us maybe the next three things, and not how to do them, but like, here's your checklist. You got to do boom, boom, boom. Like, I know you can see hundreds of people online talking about building a business. Start your LLC, get an EIN, open a bank account. What's your three that you can give us for protecting your IP that maybe they should think about? Not maybe.
So number one, again, is the trademark search. So you want to go on the USPTO website. You also want to search Google. It sounds very simple, but there are so many people that don't do it. If you have a brand, if you have a logo, you do want to do an image search. Even if you hired somebody to make it for you, a lot of those people are not true graphic designers, and they're just taking something that they saw on the internet. And just because it's on the internet doesn't mean that it's free, right? So you want to do a reverse search and see what else is out there. So that's number one. Once you clear that, then go into your business protection. And when you set up your business, whether it's, most people are setting up LLCs, that's the easiest for, solopreneurs. But if you have business partners, you do want to set up your contracts. So with the LLCs and all the other businesses, you're either going to have articles of incorporations if it's a corporation. And if you have a partner, I can give one example, a podcast. This is huge in the podcast world. When you go into these partnerships, a lot of people do not think that they're going to break up, or like you said, they think that you guys are friends, right? But then when something happens and the podcast ends, who owns the intellectual property? You guys haven't spelled that out in your contracts. Was it in your articles? Do you have contracts between the podcast hosts? Are there co-hosting agreements? Is there a contract between your podcast editor? So you want to go through the list of agreements, and just a shameful plug, I do have all of those podcast agreements for sale, but you want to think about the breakup before you really get started. I would say the contracts in your business are sort of like a prenup, right? Some people go into a marriage, and some folks are offended. Oh my God, you gave me this prenup. Well, you know what? You don't know what's going to happen, right? So when you start a business, especially if you are not a solo, if you have business partners, you need to have contracts between you and your partners, okay? So again, we talked about an LLC, but one example I wanted to give are podcasts, right? A lot of people do not do their podcasts completely by themselves. Say you have a co-host, you want to have a co-host agreement. Say you have an editor, you want to have an editor agreement. Say you have a production company, you want to have an agreement with a production company. And when you are talking about owners and co-hosts, you want to document everything. So let's say you start a business and one person brings the computer and one person brings the printer. You're just pulling all your stuff together. Right. That needs to be documented, because when you separate and you have to evaluate your business and you're trying to split up the proceeds or the assets, that's going to come into play.
Damn, that was dope.